Today we're going to be testing and reviewing the Yottamaster T7400 NVMe drive. They are advertising this as their fastest ever NVMe drive while also pricing it extremely well. So let's see if it lives up to those expectations. So I have the 2TB T7400 here. This has a 3D TLC NAND flash memory. The interface is a Gen 4x4. The DRAM is not its own cache. It is built into the controller, the MAP 1602A, which is a slightly improved controller over the previous MAP 1602 that we've seen on the previous Yottamaster models. The terabytes written spec is 1200, which is pretty good for a 2TB drive. The advertised sequential reads is 7400, whereas the advertised sequential writes is 6500. The warranty is listed for 5 years. Yottamaster did provide the T7400 2TB model for me for this review. All right, so let's go ahead and unbox this thing. So here we have the box. They are advertising 7400 megabits per second read speeds. This is the 2TB model, and they're calling it the Titan's Flow. Not too much else in terms of information. We have a little bit of information here and the model number. Now, most of Yottamaster's packaging for their NVMe drives is pretty similar. So if we go ahead and open this up, we have our manual, which also has a few more spec information in there. We have a M.2 screw, which is always nice to have an additional one. And then we have the drive itself. And we have a copper colored heat spreader. So if you're going to be installing this in a motherboard that doesn't have its own heat spreader, you can go ahead and put this on using the thermal interface tape here, which is kind of nice. And then we get a screwdriver as well. Now, in terms of the drive itself, we have all of the flash on the one side. The back side is completely flat, which is good. It means it will have the most compatibility in terms of installation, because certain motherboards and stuff, they don't like having any of the chips on the backside. It doesn't really fit properly. So if I pull this back, let's take a look and see if we can get a controller or the NAND flash. So here is our controller. It is a similar controller to what is on a lot of Yottamaster's other drive. It's the MAP 1602, but this is the A model, the F3C designation. So it does seem like it is a little bit different. And then the memory modules themselves seem to be a Yottamaster specific one, so they might be just labeling these. I don't think they're manufacturing their own chips, but we can go ahead and see if I can reverse search any of these and pull up any more information. So just like the MAP 1602, the MAP 1602A that we have here has the memory built directly into the controller instead of it being its own chip on the drive. So let me go ahead and get it installed. We'll get it initialized and we'll get some testing underway. All right, so we're in our PC. We have it installed. We're going to go ahead and initialize the drive. So we're going to type in partition, and we're going to do to create and format hard disk partitions. We're going to wait for this to initialize. And you should get this initialize disk menu that pops right up. We're just going to go ahead and select GPT and press OK. Now, if you don't get that screen, you can also initialize by just right-clicking on the disk and just doing initialize disk. You'll get the same little menu here. We're just going to go ahead and press OK because we're on GPT. And now what we can go ahead and do is we can create a partition. We're just going to do one large partition for this whole drive. We'll give it the letter D. Sure, why not? We're going to name this one T7400. And we'll do NTFS. We're going to leave it on default. And we'll do quick format, even though we don't need to because it's a brand new drive. It shouldn't take very long. And relatively quickly, we have our T7400 here available. So I'm going to do a quick real-world test. We're just going to go ahead and transfer this 52 gig file from one NVMe on my drive, the main OS drive, to the new T7400. So let's go ahead and see how fast that goes. We're sitting at about 2.6 gigabits per second, which is quite good. Moving a 52 gig file in less than 20 seconds overall is pretty great, I think. So that's some pretty decent speed. All right, so now we're going to do a quick crystal mark test. We're going to do it at 0% first, and then I'm going to go ahead and we're going to try to fill up the drive a little bit, see how it performs in the real world test again, and then we're going to do the synthetic test again. So let's go ahead and see how it performs at 0%. All right, so I filled the T7400 up to 66%. We're going to go ahead and run crystal mark again, and then we will do one more real world test before we go ahead and review all of our results. Okay, and with the T7400 at 66%, we're going to go ahead and do another copy of this file to the drive and see if its performance is any different than when it was at 0%. So it seems to be doing pretty well, still sitting at around 2.6 gigs per second, which I think is quite commendable. Looking at our results, the drive is performing extremely well, both in sequential and random. It's not doing as well in the random as is typical, but the sequential reads are fantastic, and the random reads are still very good. And once we get to the comparison chart, you can see how they are performing. A really great thing to see is at the 66%, there is not much of a change in terms of the performance at all, which is also very, very good to see. So when looking at the sequentials, the T7400 is doing quite well. It, alongside the Oracle IG740 Pro and the Yottamaster Y7000, when they're all empty, are all kind of around the same area, which is really, really good to see. And that kind of goes all the way down the board for the sequential writes. Both the Q1T1 and the Q8T1s, they're all very similar to one another. The sequential writes, a lot of them really kind of go around, especially in the Q1T1 test. The T7400 did not perform as well as some of the other drives in this test, but in the Q8T1, it is right up there with all the others, and they are all pretty consistent by looking at this chart. Now, the randoms are where things are a little bit more important because that reflects a little bit more real world scenarios. And in the random, the T7400 is very much, again, bunched up with the other drives in both the random writes Q1T1 and the random writes Q32T1. Now, in the random writes, the T7400 is doing a pretty good job, both empty and filled. It's staying relatively consistent, which is really good to see. And then again, in the Q32T1s, it is still performing about on par with the other drives. Now, if we go ahead and look at our comparison table here, the T7400 is proving itself to be a very good option. It is very similar to Oracle's IG740 Pro. It has a very similar memcache situation and setup. It has the same terabytes written. It has the same advertised sequential reads and sequential writes, same warranty, currently the same price. And so that leads me to believe that they're likely using the same manufacturer, possibly, for both of these drives. They are performing very similarly to one another as well, which is something to keep in mind. And after going back and reviewing the hardware that was on the Oracle IG740 Pro, it seems like they're using almost the exact same hardware. So the Yottamaster is using the MEP 1602A F3C, whereas the Oracle was using the MEP 1602A F2C. And the memory modules have the exact same model number up top, and then the two serials below are just slightly different. So I don't know if these are serial numbers. I assume the top one is the actual model spec for that memory, and the bottom two are identifiers for a particular module, so like a serial, because the Oracle had the TW0031K, whereas our Yottamaster has TW003-1T. The Oracle had T2341T, and the Yottamaster has T2453T. So it seems like they are definitely using the same kind of line of hardware, and the layouts also look extremely similar. And pricing wise, they're both the same. The Yottamaster T7400 hasn't been out nearly as long, so its pricing hasn't been adjusted yet. And then again, in terms of the pricing, the Oracle has gone on sale for down to $120. The cheapest I was able to find, the T7400 on Amazon, was $145.99, which is a little bit cheaper than their website price of $160. So that is something to keep in mind. And that brings me to the best use for this drive. And very similarly to the conclusion from a lot of the other drive videos, with these newer manufacturers, I personally wouldn't really like to select them as my OS drive. I'd rather have a manufacturer with a much longer history of creating drives and having a much larger support structure there as my OS drive, just for safety's sake. But drives like this are really great as an additional drive, whether you're going to be using it internally for games or additional media or what have you, or as a portable drive. You could throw it into an enclosure like Yottamaster's own enclosures or enclosures from other manufacturers, and you can have a really great portable SSD that you can use for a lot of your stuff. I use one for all of my editing so that I can edit both on my desktop and on my laptop and have all of the same media files available to me. So that's where I would like using these drives. And for their prices, it is really great to see. I hope to see the price of this go down and have some good sales in the future. But at its current price, it's still doing relatively well. I just think that the pricing could be improved. With all that said, I really do hope you found this video helpful. And if not, I at least hope you found it interesting. If you did, I'd really appreciate it if you subscribed. If you have any questions, comments, or feedback, you can leave those all down in the comment section below, and I'll try to get to them all as quickly as I can. Big thanks to my Patreon sponsors, and big thanks to you for watching to the end of this video. If you do want to see any other videos relating to the NVMe drives or any products that I'm reviewing, you can go ahead and check out the playlist right up here. And as always, stay safe out there. I'll see you next time.